In this video, we are going to take a look at the object removal tool in DaVinci Resolve. And this is, again, a studio feature. So if you don't have the studio version, you won't have access to this feature. But it's quite a neat feature in case you left something in the background that you don't want there. There's a sign that you need to get rid of, or anything else that you would like to remove from your scene. So how we're going to go about this in this video is that I've created 4 kind of levels for the object removal tool that I thought I would try to take it through as a little obstacle course and see what we can do. So level 1 will be pretty basic, level 2 a little bit more advanced, and then up to level 4, which is something that it will struggle a little bit with. So just to kind of show you the limitations of the object removal tool and where it works well and where it works a little bit less good. So let's jump into it. Let's hop into DaVinci Resolve and get started. All right, so we are inside DaVinci Resolve and we are just in the edit page right now. I've created 4 clips that are our different levels here. So level 1 is just me standing here. The object that we are going to try and remove is my jacket here on the floor, assuming that I left that and didn't want to have that in the shot. The second level is me still standing still, but just panning a little bit to see if it still can remove the jacket from the ground. The third level is me walking past the jacket to see if it actually can remove the jacket even though I am walking in front of it. And then level 4 is me waving my foot in front of it, as that is a little bit more advanced than just me walking past it for a few seconds or for half a second. Whereas this will be a little bit more difficult with the motion blur and everything going on. So that's the levels that we're going through. We're going to jump into the color page, and I've already done a grade on all the clips. So you can see this was the log footage, this is it. I've just made them into a compound node so we don't have to care that much about this for this video here. So the first thing we're going to do to make the object removal tool work is that I'm going to mask out what it is that I actually want to select. So I'm going to make a new node here. I'm going to call it mask. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going into the power window here, and I'm just going to make mark the little area around the jacket here. So we are just going to draw around it like so. Something like this, Shift H to see what we've selected, and we have the jacket in here. The scene is not moving, it's on a tripod, so we can easily just go back out again here. And now we have it selected. Now, I feel like it's easier to mask it out first and then connect it to the actual object removal tool. So we'll make a new node here. I'm using Option S to do that. And we'll call that object removal. The way you find the object removal tool in the color page is you go up here to effects, and then you can simply just search for object, and then you will find object removal tool. We'll drag that on here, and now you can see that we have a few more inputs and outputs. Today we will only care about the green input and the blue input here, and we're just going to drag our mask up to combine it with this. And this way we have the same mask selected on this node, which is our jacket here. Then we're going to open the effects folder again, if it wasn't already open. Now there's no motion in this scene because it's just completely standing still, and I'm just moving over here. So we're just going to say assume no motion because it's actually not moving. Now that was the analysis part. So because it's not moving, it can easily just say, okay, we'll just remove this. This is almost kind of like a photo removal. And then we can go to render. We have some options here, but what I first want to do is just create a clean plate. So because the analysis is already done, we just click build clean plate. And that will just create a completely masked out or completely removed the tool here. So if you go up to full screen, you see this was before and this is after. And if you didn't know the jacket was ever there, you basically wouldn't know that it had ever been there. And the video should pretty much just play back now. It is a little bit heavy on the computer. So what I've done is I've gone onto the playback menu. You can see me click on that, but it's the playback menu up here. And then in render cache, I've set it to smart. This means that it will try to render out the scene here so that we should be able to play it back in a few seconds when it's rendered it out. And basically it just removes it from the scene here. Now, sometimes we can see if there's been some change in contrast. You can see if we go to the end here, it's gotten a little bit brighter. And now we can actually see that it was here before. What we can do to balance that out is that we can change the blend mode to adaptive blend. And then it will just blend in the background a little bit more. And we can also choose to change the range that it does this. Now, in this case, it worked perfectly fine, so we don't actually need to do anything. And now, of course, it needs to render again. But now throughout the whole scene here, we should have a pretty good masked out subject or object here. And because it's not the focal point of anything here, and it wasn't, you won't really notice that it was there. Now, I get the best results when there's kind of a clean background that it can choose from and it doesn't have anything around it. That's also what we will see in a second when we go to the next levels. But for this level, it did a really good job. So I'll give it a 5 out of 5. It really just blended it out and it's just completely gone now. You can see if we go back into our node tree in the color page, this is where the jacket was, and now it's just completely gone if we turn the node on and off. So that's pretty incredible. If you have a static scene and you just need to get rid of something in the background, this is a super powerful tool to try and do so. Now, level 2, it's moving. So we're going to go into the color page again, and I'm going to make a new node again, call it mask. I'm going to do the same thing here. So I'm just going to zoom in a bit here, and I'm going to mask around the jacket again, something like this. What we're going to do now that is a little bit different is that we're going to track it. So now I actually did it here. Normally I've done it from the first point, but it should still be fine. We can go into a tracking window here, and because it's a pretty normal scene, it's just moving a little bit up and down, it should be able to track it. So if we just track it forwards and backwards here, we should be able to see that it just perfectly tracks our mask here the way through, and it looks like it's doing a perfect job. All right, so now we have our mask completely tracked. We can make a new node again. We still have our object removal tool here. We'll input the mask, and in this case we actually do have some motion. So what we'll do here is we'll do scene analysis, and it will just process through the scene here a little bit. And something is wrong with our mask here. You can see that it actually doesn't track it as I was expecting it to. Something goes wrong in the end here. So let's just try again and reset the mask here. Just gonna move it over to my jacket like so, turn off the object removal for a second, and just see if we can get it to track it perfectly this time all the way through. And it looks like it did a better job this time. So let's try and turn this on again. Do a new scene analysis. And now it looks like it did a better job. So let's just try and build a clean plate again. And once again, it is just completely done. Now, since I'm still not moving on top of it, we can also use the adaptive blend here. And now we should just see that it is just completely gone from the scene, even though the camera is moving. So because we still have it lying still, this could also be a sign on the wall or something else with a clean background. There shouldn't be any problems to remove it at all. And in this case, you can see it just completely disappears. You wouldn't notice that the grass pattern is different, so it just looks like it was never there in the first place. So that's pretty handy. Level 2, 5 out of 5 again, I would say. It did a really good job. It was easy for it to just mask it out and remove it. Now we come to level 3, and this is where it gets a little bit more difficult. So in this case, we have me walking in front of it. It's still a static shot, so nothing else is moving. I wanted to make it a little bit easy on it, but we can see that I'm moving in front of it. So let's just go to the first place of the clip here. Do as we've done in the previous times. We're going to mask out the jacket here. I'm just going to zoom in to make it a little bit easier for myself. I am going to make a mask around it. Doesn't have to be perfect. Something like this. Check that it's good. It is. Make a new node, combine the two, and make it an object removal tool. And in this case, let's just go back out to full screen. We are going to do I don't think we need to do a scene analysis because it's just lying still there. But the problem becomes when we go and I am moving in front of it. As you can see here, even without the clean plate, it won't notice that I'm moving in front of the object because it doesn't really know that I'm not supposed to do that. So we can still build a clean blade. Let's do that from over here where we started. And now it's completely gone. Now the issue becomes when we move in front of it here, you can see that all of a sudden it doesn't look very good because I'm moving behind the grass. That doesn't really make any sense. Now we could try and do different things here to make it work better. And we can also try and do the adaptive blend. But what we have an issue with here is that I'm still behind it, but now it's just trying to adapt to whatever is in front of it. So it'll work perfectly when I am not walking in front of it. But as soon as I go in front of it, it becomes a little bit weird. And you can see that it takes up the color of my legs here in this case. So what we can do is we can ask for help from our friend, the Magic Mask. And I made a video on that before, so you can find that. I'll link a card up here. But what you can do here is that we can say, okay, this is fine for me now. I like how the plate is built. I actually want it to be the linear blend for now. And what I want to do instead is I'm going to make a new layer here. So I'm just going to duplicate by holding down Option and make a new layer of my level 3 clip here. And to make it a little bit simpler for myself, I'm not going to take the entire clip. So I'm just going to take the part where I'm actually walking in front of the jacket here, and I am out of frame here. So we can just take this part. Now I'm going to select the clip and jump back into the color page here. I'm just going to delete these two because I don't need them in this case. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to make another node and call it Magic Mask. And we don't need the effects panel here this time, so we can have a little bit more space to work with. And what I'm going to try and do in this case is mask myself out here to make a layer on top of the layer where the jacket has been masked out. So what I'm going to try is I'm going to say, find a place where I'm actually walking in front of the jacket at least a little bit. Then I'm going to go to the Magic Mask here. Again, this is another paid feature of DaVinci Resolve, but this is where they can really work together. So I'm going to attach my masking here. I can see what I'm doing. And I'm just going to try and draw a line here on myself. I already did a really good job selecting me. Just want a bit more of my foot here. I'm going to click better to just make it the selection even better. And now we can see if we zoom in even more here, it did select the jacket as well. And here we have an issue because the jacket is the same color as my legs. Had it been an orange jacket or something, it would have been easier. But of course, I didn't make it that easy on myself. So I'm going to try and tell DaVinci, do not select the jacket. I'm going to try and make it track forward and backwards. And we can already see it's still selecting some of the jacket, but not always. So I think we are good in some instances here. So let's move through it and see when it is selecting the mask. Here it is. So we're going to tell DaVinci, nope, don't select this part. I'm going to drag it backwards again. It looks like it's fine. Drag it forward. Here it has it again. So say, no, thank you, DaVinci. We do not want the jacket here. Try and drag it. And it wants to drag backwards again. That's fine. Already works that way. Here we have the issue again. And you can see this is kind of just how we can go in and try and balance out and tell DaVinci, nope, we don't want these parts. Now it needs to drag it forwards and backwards. And I think you get the picture now. We don't have that many parts left. So I'm just quickly going to go in and help adjust the rest of it. All right, so now we have a selection that looks like it's pretty good. You can see I did a lot of drawings. I also went into Shift H to see exactly what I was selecting, so I could easily just tell DaVinci when I didn't want the jacket. And what I'm going to add here is just going to go in here, and then I'm just going to add a little bit of blur radius to make the mask seem a little bit better, and maybe make the clean black a little bit better, clean white a little bit better as well, just to kind of try and get rid of some of that extra blur that we have around me. Okay, I think this mask is pretty good actually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click over here in my node panel, and I'm going to make or add the add alpha output here. That gives us a blue dot here. And now we can connect the blue output, the alpha output of the Magic Mask, with the output source here. What that helps us do is that now our clip itself is only this part that we have selected. That's all that it outputs. So if we go into our timeline here again, we can turn this off and you can see this is just me selected here. Now with the clean plate underneath, you can actually see that we pretty much just got rid of the jacket, and I can now move in front of it without any issues. There is a little bit, and we can still clean that up. So you can see there was once where the jacket just appeared again. But aside from that, we actually did a really good job just removing the jacket and having me walk in front. Now, this is not the easiest thing to do in the world, and you have to fiddle around with a Magic Mask, and I don't know how clickable it is to real life, but it's just to show you how these two tools can kind of work together to make it a little bit easier to get rid of these things. Especially if you have a pinch situation where you actually have a sign and someone walking in front of it, this could be a way to deal with that, to put your subject on top of it, to make sure that it is masked out. So that was level 3. I will give it a 4 out of 5 because it still removed the jacket. We didn't have any light switching here, so we can still see that it's gone. And with the help of Magic Mask, it was pretty easy to get rid of the jacket and get me in front here instead. So the last thing that we are going to do here is level 4, where it's kind of the same as level 3, but the issue here is that I'm moving a lot more in front of it, and we have a lot of motion blur of me moving in front and back of this. And this actually came from my first attempt when I wanted to make this video. I was trying to remove the microphone that I had on my chest for recording my videos, and it was super difficult because I had my hands blurring in front of it. So I thought I would make this level 4 and see what we can do. Now we're going to go with the same technique, more or less. So let's, for the first time here, make a mask, and we are just going to select our little jacket here, make another node, drag in the object removal, connect the blue input and outputs here. And what we are going to do is we're still going to tell it is no motion, and we want a linear blend mode and build the plate. And now it is completely gone again. If we go through it, we have the same issue as before, and we also have a little bit issues with the light changing, but for the most part, it looks pretty good. Now, where I am going to start putting my foot in front of this jacket is around here. So let's go in and just try and see if we can make the same technique work again. So I'm going to shorten the clip to here, and I'm going to see when I'm done putting my foot in front of this jacket, and I am around here. So it's a bit longer clip. We're going to make sure that we have the clip on timeline 2. Delete these again. We don't need the effects panel, and then we're going to add a magic mask once again, just to see if we can do the same trick for this. And we're going to select the magic mask here, and we're just going to try and select on me here, and then put on the masking here and better to see what it selects. And we're going to tell DaVinci, no, we do not want the jacket to be selected. And we're going to drag it forward and backwards. It looks like it does a pretty decent job, at least the first time around, a little bit less the second time and third time here. And let's see what we can do here. So we go back to where we had our selection here. We just move one frame at a time with the negative selection tool selected. So let's just zoom in a lot more here and just move backwards a frame at a time. Say, no, thank you, DaVinci. We do not want this selected. And then out again, and we need to do it the opposite way. So we're going to the first frame instead, going to move forward and say, no, thank you. Luckily, it understands pretty fast what we're trying to do here. All right, I think we do have a pretty good selection now. So let's again add the alpha output and connect the two, and then just see what happens when we go into our magic here and just try to, we have an okay selection. It's still not perfect, but as you can see, we did a little bit better of a job now. Again, I'm not going to adjust this even more, but this is not a case of something you would probably see in real life. And if you did, it'd probably be easier to go out and retake the situation without the jacket rather than trying to do something like this. So this is where it really becomes more difficult. And with the magic mask, we could get a result that we're probably happy with, but I'm not sure that it would be worth the time and effort to do it in this. But in case of the other situations, if you just walk past something, if you pan the camera, or if you just have a scene that's standing still, the object removal tool is a really, really powerful and great tool to work with. So that was what I had for you today in this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found out more about the object removal tool and what it can do and what it can't do. If you want more videos where I go into it with some more complicated scenes or some scenes out more in the real life, let me know. I'm happy to try and see what I can do. But for this quick tutorial, I just wanted to show you kind of what it's really good at doing and where some of the limitations lie in terms of especially moving subjects in front of the object that you're trying to remove. And if you have any better way of doing it, then please let me know, because this is how I've been able to use the object removal tool myself so far, and the instances where I've used it. And again, if you have a clean background and something you want to remove, it works really, really well. And then as we progress in having something going in front of it, it gets increasingly more difficult as we get to that. So with that said, thank you so much for watching, and until the next time, take care.